We started discussion about the Docker file. That is nothing but a text file you can consider, which we which we create mainly to create a customized image. Okay, so we have to write certain content within that, some instructions within that. There is a standard format of writing the Docker file as well. And once we are done with writing the Docker file, then we can definitely means we can create a customized image from that. So we have just discussed this diagram yesterday, like in a default nginx image, there is no git or there is no tree command. So let's say if you want that to be present within your uh, image, then you have to create a custom image. If you want your index.html page to be present within the customized image, not the welcome to nginx that content, you want something else content, then you can push the index.html file within this customized image. So we will see that option. Okay, so likewise we can make use of multiple instructions like from, run, copy, add user. So we will just try to go through each one of those one by one at a time. So yesterday we have seen about like what is the from and what is that run. Okay, let me go through that one more time. Let's create one more folder, my directory, let's say. Let's go to that, and as of now I don't have any file over here. Let's create a Docker file. The name should be this only. Okay, it's like case sensitive. D should be capital and other should be the small. So it's always good to follow the standard format. So as per standard format, the name of the Docker file should be this way. We want to make use of nginx as a base image. Okay, and after that, yesterday we have seen how to install the git within this customized image. Okay, so first of all we just need to update our packages, and once we are done with updating the packages, then install the git within that, and hyphen wise just to say the flag, go ahead and install it without even asking for yes or no. So let's do this for again. Okay, so we got this Docker file over here. Now if you want to execute this, if you want to create a image from this Docker file, then Docker image build, we need to provide name to this image as well. Okay, because each and every image will have a name and will have a image id. So image id will get generated at runtime, but we have to provide a name to that image. So let's say I'll provide my custom image, and dot is nothing but the Docker file is present at the current working directory. Okay, so okay, I think some spelling mistake I have done. Install, ins install. Let's execute this command one more time, and this got uh, created successfully. Yesterday also we did the same thing. That's where it is executed very quickly. Now Docker image ls, if you do, you will see this image like my custom image we just created. Okay, now next thing we will do is like we will just embed the index.html, like custom index.html. We will create index.html on our local system over here, and we will just push this index.html within the custom image. So let's say my custom content, I'll say, and let's push this index.html within the custom image. So yeah, so that whenever I will launch, or whenever I'll try to access that container from the internet, then I will see the content of this file. Otherwise it will show the content like welcome to nginx. Okay, so let's consider this is my website content, and it should be visible once the container got created. So if you want to do that, then just make use of the copy instructions. Copy is nothing but copying the file from your local system within the custom image. Which file you want to copy? Index.html you want to copy, and at which location you want to copy. So as we know, like this index.html file present within the container, at which location you can google it as well. You will see this location. So this is the default location where our index.html hosted. So we want that to be copied at this location, okay, and with the same name. I don't want any name change or anything. So this file will get copied within the custom image. So let's see things are working fine or not. Let's build it again. You can provide multiple tag to this as well, okay. I mean to say, let's say if I don't specify anything over here like colon v1 or something, then by default it is going to take the latest tag. What is the tag actually? These are nothing but I meant to say different versions of the same image. Now you can see I have created this image earlier as well, and now I have done some modification within that Docker file, and again I'm creating a image. I want to provide a name of the image should be same. In that case I can provide a different tags to it. It's like a different versions of that image. Let's see if I don't provide this colon v1, in that case it will again take the latest and it is going to override the previous image. And if you want to keep the previous image as well, in that case just change the tag like colon v1, then next time colon v2. So likewise you can just provide multiple tags to that image. So let's check the image ls. So we got this images, my custom image. This is the previous one with the latest tag, and now I have given a tag as v1. So this is the latest image with a tag v1. Let's try to create a container from this image with tag v1. Docker container run -d. Let's give a name as c1 and port mapping as, let's say, and from which image I want it to be created. I want it to be created from the custom image which I have just created. Okay, so right now I got an error because it is saying the container name c1 already used by the container. I think there is container already running with the same name. Okay, so because the name should be unique of the container. If c1 is already there within my system, then I cannot create another container with the same name. So let's check if it is in the work. Yeah, c1 is there. I think we have launched this yesterday. So let's delete this and let's try to create our container again. Okay, so we successfully created a container c1 over here. Let's check the status, and yeah, this got created successfully. And now let's try to access this container over the browser via port 90. Okay, so what is the IP address? Let's copy it, the IP address, and port should be 90 over here. Sorry. Now you can see I don't get any welcome page over here. I just directly got this my custom content. How come this is working fine? Because the the content which I have written over here, I have embedded this content or embedded this index.html within the custom image. Okay, so that's where the content of the file index.html will be visible over here. Okay, so this way like this is the perfect way of working with a custom image, because we need our image to be according to our project. Okay, so that's where create index.html according to your project, or any file according to your project, and push it within the image, so that that image will have entire application and entire libraries, binaries, each and everything will be there within that image. So if you anyone want to execute application or create application from that, or anyone want that application to be up and running, then he just have to go ahead and create a container, and that's all. The way let's say this is the final website content I have. In that case, let's say I'm a developer, and if I create a container, then this will be visible over the browser. And if I share this image with the tester, and tester is also going to create a container and look for the content, so he will also get the same content at his end, because no one have modified the things in between. That's how we can just I mean to say, that's how we can make use of this copy instructions to copy the file from local system within the custom image. Now let's talk about some more instructions, like let's say this is the copy file, and then let's say we have add as well. Add is nothing but it is also one of the another way of copying the file from our local system to the container or to the custom image. Only difference between copy and add is mainly used to copy the tar file or compress file. I mean to say, let's say if I make use of the copy, let's say if there is any directory.tar, and if I copy it to, let's say, tmp, in that tmp directory, in that case what is going to happen, this tar file is directly getting copied under the slash tmp. But if I make use of this, instead of copy, if I make use of add and the same thing, then there is one more extra feature of having add, is like it is going to extract the content, like it is going to uh, extract the file or extract the star file, and whatever the extracted things are coming out, those things will get copied under the slash tmp. Okay, so copy is like as it is going to copy paste the content, copy paste the file. Okay, but add is nothing but it is going to extract it first and then it is going to copy it. Okay, that is the major difference between copy and add. And next is like okay, let's talk about certain environment variables. Environment variable is nothing but let's say within this container, I think we have container, one container with the name as c1. Let's log into that container, execute -it c1, and if you type env, then it is going to show you certain environment variables which are present within this container. Okay, so these are certain environment variables. Now if you want to add let's say any another environment variable like database user or database password, those variables, let's say, are getting used by your application code. In that case you have to define those variables somewhere, so it's always good practice to define under the environment variable. Okay, so these are the certain environment variable which are coming by default with a default image which are provided by the Docker community. But any other username or any other environment variable you want to add over here, you are free to do so with the help of env as a instructions. Okay, so let's say env db underscore user, let's define the value as admin, and this way we can define n number of environment variable within this. So as of now I have just defined single environment variable. So right now you can see this environment variable db user is not visible over here, but once I create a custom image and create a container from that, then definitely we will see that. Okay, so let's try it out. Let's create every time you modify the docker file you have to build it, because otherwise the changes will not be into the effect. So I have modified my docker file, so let's build it, and let's say version v2, and let's create a container from it. This time I'm going to create with a name as say2, and let's log into this container, execute. You can direct, instead of logging in the container, we just wanted to see which all environment variables are there, right? So like one is like use you can log in with the help of execute hyphen it, and second way is like without even login you can directly execute any commands within the container from the local terminal only. Let me show you. Execute, then name of the container as c2, and within this c2 container I want to execute command env. Okay, and over here you can see this is the environment variable I have added, and which is visible perfectly fine over here. Okay, so this way you can add as many environment variable as you want within this uh, custom image with the help of env, because these variables definitely in the real-time project we definitely need to add environment variable, because those environment variables are being referred within the project or within certain applications to connect to the database, right? So that's why I have kept the example of this db user. So some small instructions we are just going to see. Now let's say if I go ahead and run, let's create a file over here. Okay, a.txt, or let's say file1.txt. Let's see where this file is getting created. Okay, means if I try to create a file over here within the container, uh, just a empty file. Okay, if I change anything again, let's build it and let's create container. Let's log into that. Now the file which I have created, file1.txt, is what created at this root location. Okay, now if you think that file to be created at some other location, or if you want there is certain directory and you want to execute each and everything from that directory, so in that case you have to set that directory first, and then only things will, like let's say if I talk about, I want to go to /tmp first, and then I want to create certain file over here. So in this way within the tmp folder file will get created, right? The same thing I can do with the help of Dockerfile as well. Like by default things are getting created at the root location over here, right? But if I want other the files to be created in some other directory, so you can change the working directory. uh, Let me explain with the example. Okay, and now let's see if I just, okay, let's see if I say file 2, sorry, file 2, file 3, file 4, and again let's see if I say, okay, so what is the meaning of this work directory? Now earlier the file 1 was getting created at the root location, but I want now onwards like each and everything should get executed under /tmp. So whatever commands or whatever instructions I'm providing over here, that will get executed under the /tmp. So work dir is nothing but changing the working directory to /tmp. So it's up to us which working directory I want to set, and if you change it again work directory slash, so again things will come back to the root location. Okay, so this work directory you can use as many time as you want, you want to execute certain set of instructions in particular directory, then set it to that, again some other directory, then set it to that. Likewise you can set working directory as many time as you want as per our requirement. So this way I can see files to be created within this under the /tmp location. Okay, so let's try it out. If you want to try, you have to create a image first. Let's name it, tag it as v4. It's successfully created. Now let's create image from it with a name as c4, and let's log into this. Okay, so this file1.txt is there within this container, and if I go to tmp, there are these other extra files which I have created. So even though I haven't specified at which location this file to be created, so always it is going to look for what working directory we have set, and then always it is going to create in that working directory. Okay, so we don't have to mention every time, like let's say ये मैं define नहीं करता यहाँ पे working directory, so in that case I have to say cd to slash tmp, and once it is completed, then it should go ahead and create a file within that. So likewise I have to play with it, but as we are learning certain perfect docker file, how to create a docker file with all the instructions, so that's where I'll not go to this manual step of doing cd that directory first and creating file later. So that's where we are making use of this uh, work dir as an instructions. Now we have seen this add user. Okay, user is pending. Okay, let's talk about user now. Okay, so the container which we just created, and cd slash tmp, within this you can see all the files got created with the root user, because the default user which is provided by this container or provided by this image is the root user. Okay, so that's where each and every file is created over here with the root user. But now you want to execute certain commands with some different user. In that case we have to make use of the user as an instructions. So let me explain. So as of now, how which all users we have, that is that we can see with the help of cat etc pass wd. So it is going to show which all users are present within this container. As of now I can see this nginx user is there, nobody user is there, so a lot of users are provided or present within this container. So what I want the file to be created with certain different user, let's call it as a nginx user. Okay, so this is my requirement now, that whenever the file is getting created, it should get created with user as nginx. So let's do this practical. Let's say user as nginx, and again let's go ahead and create certain files. Let's say file 12, 13, 14, and change the working directory again to slash tmp, and change the user again back to root, because by default it was like root. So it's always good practice, whatever user the image is providing, let's run with that user only, let's provide container access with that user only. So right now what I'm trying to do over here, so these files we just saw that it is going to get created with a root user, and I want other files to be created with some different user, that is nothing but nginx user. So that's where I have just written this user as an instructions and name of the user. So each and every command below this will get executed with a nginx user. Let's try it out with practically. So if you want to try it out, again build an image first. Okay, then create container and log into that container. Okay, so let's go to the slash tmp. Now you can see the previous files like file 2, 3, 4 got created with a root user, but other files got created with nginx user. So if you want to execute any process or any script or any command with a different user, not a default user, in that case this user instruction is going to help us. All good till now? Okay, Great. And now let's see which all other instructions are there. uh, Expose is there, and entry point and CMD, I guess so, yeah. So let's talk about the expose one. Okay, so we have this container docker, sorry, we have this image ls. Okay, so by default this nginx is exposed over the port 80 because default port of nginx is 80. If you see the container as well, you will see port 80 over here because this is the default port. So from where this information is coming, that what is the default port of the nginx? As I know this is the default port, but let's say if someone is not aware of what is the default port and he want to get an information about like which port is exposed with this nginx image, in that case we can just look into the description of this image where we will get to see which all ports are exposed over here. So if you want to see the more information about that image, so inspect is a command. Docker image inspect. Inspect will work for container as well, will work for image as well. So inspect is just to show a detailed information about an image. So let's look into the detailed information. Okay, I'll directly go to the relevant information. These are certain environment variables defined within this image. Then you can say expose ports equal to 80. Okay, so over here it is defined that the port 80 is exposed by this image. So I can see the container is running over the port 80 in this case. Okay, so we don't need to create a container just to check the exposed ports directly as well. If you just inspect to this container, so inspect to this image, you will get to see. But let's say your custom application is running over the port 5000 or 6000 or any other port. In that case definitely you can just add as many exposed ports over here. That is just for information that your application is running over what port. That is the main purpose of using the expose over here. Okay, so you can do so. So how you are going to do this? Let's say expose, let's say 5000, and let's build image one more time. V6. Once this image got created, let's inspect this image. Now you can see expose ports is 5000 as well. So earlier there was 80 as a expose ports. Now I have added 5000 as well as an expose port. So this is just for information purpose that okay, my application is running over 5000 port. Okay, nothing nothing like this is the only use case of this expose, nothing apart from this, I mean to say. Because as a new person, I'll not get more information about your image, like or more information about how your application is running, at what port it is running. So all those things should be present within the image only, right? So that's where we have to expose that port so that others can see at what port your application is up and running. Now the main thing over here comes as entry point and CMD. This is the important thing to understand and little bit tricky if for the very first time. Okay, so if I expose or if I inspect my nginx image, this is the image which we downloaded from the Docker Hub, and if I try to explore that, then you will see entry point. There is one, you can see one line over here, entry point equal to docker hyphen entry point dot sh. This is the script which is present at the root location. Okay, and this is the CMD present over here. CMD nothing but a command. Okay, nginx hyphen g daemon of. So this is the command to start the nginx process. Okay, the way we start WebLogic with start weblogic.sh. In the same way, there is a command to start a nginx. Okay, and that command is nothing but nginx -g daemon of. This is the command to start a nginx. Now why we need entry point and CMD. Okay, let's say you have pushed your application within the image. Okay, let's say that is the Java application, and you have added uh, a jar file within your application. So definitely, if you want to execute, if you want that application to be up and running, so just by adding the jar file within the image will not work, right? You need to execute a startup command to that application as well. So mostly if there is a Java application, then this Java hyphen jar and name of the jar file, let's say my app.jar. This is the command which usually developer is to run this application within the jar file. Okay, in that case definitely whenever a container is getting created, because image के अंदर तो application up and running नहीं रहता, image के अंदर just application settled रहता है, present होता है, where application gets executed or where application is running within the container. Okay, so when container will get created, what command it should execute to run the application, that is defined under the entry point and CMD both. Okay, so now when to use entry point and when to use CMD, let me explain you with some simple scenario. Okay, so let me delete all unwanted things over here. Okay, and let's say if I say entry point, so whatever entry point was present within the nginx, we have seen entry point which is present within the nginx is this one. What entry point we have seen? This script as an entry point we have seen. But let's say if you want to, if you in your custom image you don't want this to be entry point, you want something else, in that case the default entry point will get overwritten with a entry point which I'm providing over here. Okay, so entry point is nothing but a startup script which is going to execute when the container is going to get created. Let's say if I say startup script as sleep for 10 seconds, let's say. Okay, so let's say if I just make let me correct this. Okay, so this is the first argument, this is the second argument. Okay, so this is the way we have to specify all the arguments. Like let's say if I have to write the java hyphen jar and my app. Okay, so in that case how I am going to write, let me show you. Java, then hyphen, sorry, my app dot jar. Okay, so let's say as a developer I want a jar file to be executed once the container got created. So I'm going to write this, like each and every argument you have to write within the quotation and just comma separated, that's all. Okay, in this case whenever a container is going to get created, it is going to execute this sleep command. Sleep 10 is nothing but 10 is nothing but a 10 seconds over here. So for the 10-second container will go under the sleep mode, and as you know, once the sleep 10 command will get finished, uh, the container will go into the exited status. Why so? Because container के अंदर जो process होता है, that process or that command I have written over here, and this command is going to get completed after 10 seconds. So once the command or the process which is up and running within the container gets finished, in that case your container will go into the exited status. So container up and running कब रहता है हमेशा? Till the time process within that container is up and running. So let's see this practically first, then you will definitely get what I'm trying to say over here. Let's create image from this. Let's say a 7. Let's create a container from this. and look for the process. mm, C1 to C3, 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 C4. I think right now I can see this is into the exited status, maybe certain syntax issue. Let's go to the Docker file, and over here I miss one quotation, so that's where things not worked properly. Not an issue, I have just corrected it, and let's create an image one more time. And once we create an image, let's go ahead and create a container, C8 container, let's say. Now you can see this container is into up and running. Okay, yeah, over here it's up, but this commands, till the time this command is up and running, or till the time this command is executing, it is going to be into the up condition. But now once this slip10 command will finish, the container will go into the exited status, because कंटेनर के अंदर का जो प्रोसेस मैंने अभी बताया है एग्जीक्यूट होने के लिए, that process is now finished, so container will no longer into the up and running condition. So that's where this C8 container is goes into the exited status. Let me show you. C8, you can see this is under the exited status, because it was into the up status, but was it for the 10 second only, not beyond that. And same thing, let me explain you with maybe some other example. Let's say echo. Okay, let's say if I specify within this entry point echo DevOps. Okay, so it is just going to print DevOps as part of this container, because echo DevOps is going to print me a DevOps as an output, and this echo DevOps command will finish within a second, and that's where once the container will get created, it will goes into the exited as soon as this echo DevOps command will finish execution. Okay, so let's try it out. Simply let's say this time I'm not going to execute it into the directly, create it without any background. So you can see once I execute this, always it is going to print the logs, and what is present within the logs, the command which is I have executed. So within the Docker file I have executed echo statement, okay, echo DevOps, so that you can see over here. Then what is the purpose of CMD? Because within this uh, nginx image there was entry point as well, there was CMD as well. Okay, so entry point के अंदर होता है main startup command, and CMD is just for command line arguments. If you want to provide any command line argument to this command, to this entry point, so definitely we can provide it within the command. Okay, so let's say if I provide CMD as this. Okay, so if I provide CMD as class, so what is going to happen, this argument class will be acting as a command line argument to the entry point command. So how it will look like internally, when you execute a container, it will look like echo DevOps class. This is how it will look like. So इस entry point के आगे this command line argument will get added, and इसका output जो भी आएगा, like that is nothing but DevOps class, that is going to get outputted perfectly over here. So for that matter we have to build our image one more last time. sorry, not this command. We have created a image and let's execute it. Now you can see I got this output as a DevOps class, perfectly fine over here. So the difference between a entry point and CMD is nothing but entry point is a main script which is going to get executed, and whatever things I'm providing under the CMD, that will act as a command line argument to the entry point script. Understood this difference or what entry point and CMD is doing over here? Okay, so let's come to the last part of our session. That is nothing but whatever image or whatever Docker images I have created, how I can push it to my personal repository. I mean to say, we have this many images now. Okay, and let's say this is the final image and correct image. Let's talk about in that way. And I want to push this image to my repository. Which repository? Docker Hub repository. So I think each and everyone will be having one Docker Hub account. So let me go to my Docker Hub account. Let's log into it, hub.docker.com, and this is like a free kind of account. Okay, so this is my Subodh Dere as a username of my account. So you can push all of your images under this user account. Okay, so how you will push this image within this Docker Hub? Because अभी Docker Hub के अंदर login करने के लिए you will definitely need credentials. Let's say if I sign out, so and try to sign in one more time. In that case, it will ask me for username and password. Okay, so this username is Subodh Dere and password over here is this dummy pass @11. Okay, then this is how you can authenticate to your Docker Hub account with the help of username and password. In the same way, if you want to push your images to this Docker Hub account, so this Docker also needs some authentication. Otherwise, anyone can push any image to anyone's account, right? Which we want to avoid. Okay, so that's where Docker provided certain authentication method. That is nothing but Docker login. Let's log into my account with username is Subodh Dere and password is whatever password I'm using for logging to this Docker Hub account. So dummy pass @11 was the password I used to log into this. So it's the same password I am providing over here, and the login got succeeded. Now let's go ahead and add the images within this Docker Hub account, my personal Docker Hub account. So first of all, you just need to change the name of this repository because each and every repository will start with a username. Okay, so you just have to rename this repository or rename this image to the something else. So let me show you. Docker image tag is nothing but giving a image one more name to that image. So कौन से image को अपने को push करना है? I want to मतलब I want to rename this image to something else. So what will be the something else? Always it will start with my account name. Okay, and then this image. Okay, so in short, what I am trying to do over here, I am renaming or I'm giving this image name a one more name, and that name is like starting with my username. No, rename is to rename the container, not image. Okay, so we have just tag command, and this is the only command we have in this list. So tag is to list or tag is to like rename it. It will not rename, it will have this name as well, and it will have this name as well. It will create one more name, I mean to say. Then let's look into the list of images, which again, and now this is the new name I have given, right? So that's why it will also come into the list of images. And if you look into the image ID, this image ID and this image ID is almost it's exactly matching, it means these images are identical to each other. If image id is matching, it means images are identical, because it's like a rename only, nothing else, so there won't be any change in the image id. Now it's very easy to push this image. How you push it? With the help of docker image push, name of the image and the tag which we have provided. It is under the preparing and waiting condition. Let's wait for a moment. Mounted from library, and this got pushed successfully. So let's check if this is present or not. You can see this my custom image with a tag as v10 got pushed over here. So this is how you can push this image to your person. Now this image is like up to us if I want to keep it a private or a public. If image is private, in that case no one can pull this image. The way you are doing docker image pull nginx, this nginx, even without even login to the docker, like you can pull this image nginx, okay, because this nginx image is a public image, it's publicly available for everyone. But if any image is a private image, in that case without authentication we cannot pull it. So in that case let me show you where is that mentioned. If I go to this repository, you will see this my custom image is public over here. Okay, so by default all images are public over here. So if this image is public, it means let's say अभी मैंने my custom image एक image बनाया है and you are my teammate and I want to share with you. So I'm just going to add this image to the central account, and then you will pull this image at your end without any problem. Okay, with just like docker image pull command. Okay, so this is how I can share image with my colleagues without but let's say if that is authenticated, or if that account is like only belongs to let's say your company, in that case definitely there will be certain authentication methods you have to go ahead and provide. Without authentication the company images will not get downloaded or pulled, because as of now we are just learning open source tools. So I will not keep this image private right now, but whenever that requirement will come in the next 1 or 2 months, that time definitely I will share like how you can make the image private, how you can make image public, and what exactly is the difference. When we will learn Kubernetes, that time definitely we will explore more about public and private images. But as of now, just understand how we can uh, push that image. Whatever the custom images I have created over here, I can push all the images to my Docker Hub account. The way I have pushed once image over here, in the same way you can push any of your image. Only thing, like two steps. First is like you need to tag this image. A tag is nothing but because this username is very much important, otherwise uh, it will not get pushed. Okay, and the image name you want to keep whatever you want to keep this image name, and then push it. So in that way your image will get pushed to your Docker Hub account. This is mainly for image sharing, nothing else. Okay, so that's all from my end as of now. uh, I hope you understood about this Docker file, what exactly is the Docker file and how to write it, and what is the purpose of Docker file, and what is the meaning of each and every instructions written over here. Along with that, how to pull it, sorry, how to push it to the own Docker Hub account. Okay, so we are almost at the 50% of our Docker syllabus. So next we will look into the Docker volume, network, and last Docker compose. Thank you so much for joining. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.